So, for myself, I've always taken a performance-based approach. So I neither like bus or rail better. I just like what gets our most customers to their destinations on time. So I'll start off with this is the image of our current planning process on Ashland Avenue. As you can see, we kind of ended up at a gold standard approach, very similar to what they have in Cleveland. But it's important to note, and you'll see this as I go through our projects individually, that we started, we crawled before we walked, and we were walking before we were running here. So it was important for us to have a proof of concept before we went to this robust. I'll go into this project a lot more detail later, but I want to start off with that. A little bit of background in Chicago. CTA also has two other operating agencies, Metra and PACE. CTA with its 8 rail lines, 144 rail stations, 129 bus routes, serves the city and surrounding suburbs, while Metra provides 12 commuter rail lines. PACE Suburban Bus provides a massive amount of coverage in the suburbs with bus routes that go throughout the 6-county region. The 6-county region is about 10 million for population. There's about 3 million in the city. Moving on to that. So CTA, we're the second largest public transit system in the United States, serving City of Chicago and 35 suburbs. Our service area is about 3.8 million people, and we provide 1.7 million rides on an average weekday, and that's about a little bit over 1 million on the bus and about 650,000 on the rail side. The rail system is a hub and spokes, as you can see there. Our main arteries are north-south, or the red line you can see going from the north side of the city all the way down to 95th Street. Another major rail line for us is the blue line, which goes out to O'Hare. Those two lines combined carry the bulk of the rail ridership. And a lot of the rail was built in the city, as the city was developing. So it was privately built by developers at the time. It's an important thing to note. CTA has been around since 1947, and has some of those legacy systems and has built additional rail lines since. So a little bit of the overview with ridership, in the ridership trends. Like a lot of other public transit agencies, demand has been up over the last few years. 2012 saw our highest ridership in 22 years, but also our highest rail ridership in 50 years. And I want to point that out primarily because you can see the 3 lines there. Bus has maintained kind of a flat, hasn't decreased, but it's been pretty flat. And that's partially due because as the city's gotten more congested, the buses have been slower, less predictable over time. And it's been a death by 1,000 paper cuts, but it's not an attractive service as much as the rail. You can see rail has grown dramatically. So for us, it was a challenge of how do we expand our high capacity, high speed, premium transit network, which up to this point, to about 3 years ago, was really denoted by rail and a few express bus routes that use the highways on Lakeshore Drive. And so it became a problem for us because at the same time, CTA, by many estimates, anywhere from $9 to $12 billion of a state of good repair. So we have a heavy burden on our capital budget as well to maintain the existing transit infrastructure that we currently have. One other thing about Chicago too, I always like to point out is this helps also provide the opportunity for BRT. There's a very flat and boring geography and a continuous pre-war grid throughout the city. So you have an arterial every half mile, and this small story, real quick story, you can get from point A to point B in 4 different routes if you're on a bike or you're walking or you're in a car, where the fixed rail and bus lines, dramatically have to go on a straight line into most of those corridors. So about 1/4 of the actual land in the city of Chicago is right-of-way, so it's a street and alley rail right-of-way. There's a tremendous opportunity. We have a great asset with our infrastructure. So getting out of Chicago real quick, I just want to go to the FTA headquarters here in DC. Just to point out one thing, the other part of the equation is that FTA has a lot of projects nationwide. They have a lot of projects they like, which is a small portion of the actual projects that are proposed. But out of those projects they really like, they have about $1 for every $5 they want to fund. So it's very competitive. You have to position your projects well. you're competing not only with you know, other projects in your city, but you know, Chicago's competing with New York, competing with Los Angeles, some other very big cities, along with other smaller cities like Charlotte, who've been doing the right things over time as well. So I say that just because we have to be cost-effective projects for us is a main driver of how we approach expansion. So let's get back to ridership. We have, you know, about 1 million bus passengers per day. We have local buses that are very slow and unreliable throughout the system, but especially close to downtown in our inner-ring neighborhoods. But we know that customers prefer faster, more reliable transit. What we're trying to do is to attract the choice rider here. We have people who ride the bus no matter what, but there's a lot of people who will take a taxi, take an Uber, take a car, because the bus is way too slow for them. They have no other way to get to their job. So it's trying to create a premium service for these riders that we currently aren't capturing. I'll get into this at the end. I just want to put out there that, you know, the opportunity for BRTs is a growing demand for high quality transit. We have major capital needs at CTA that compete with other capital needs for expansion. And there's a lack of funding for current capital projects. What bus rapid transit allows us to do is to address that demand for high quality transit in a cost effective way. There's also a shorter construction timeline for these projects and allows for what is not a real world word, but feasibility, I like to say, which allows you to build these projects incrementally. You can build the first 2 miles of a BRT route and still run the buses in mixed traffic north and south, and have immediate improvements for a project that might have a much larger scale. You have agile service patterns. You can run any buses from other streets into a BRT right-of-way, and they get that advantage also. There's a variety of BRT funding programs, not only in new starts, but also small starts that were provided in our first couple at CTA were provided out of a livability grant. And it also provides the economic development opportunities that we're seeing with rail. We see the same, our customers, that what really drives ridership is high speed and high quality transit with reliability. On the right here, this is again the Ashland BRT, and I compare this with the travel times of the red line. It's a little bit slower, but not that much. It's about 16 miles an hour compared to about 21 miles an hour. If that trip is about 5 miles, you know, there's not much of a difference to the end user, to the customer. So I'll go over 3 projects. The first is Jeffrey Jump, which was implemented a little bit over a year ago. The Central Loop Corridor, which will be under construction later this year. In Ashland, which we're in the final stages of NEPA and completing that. The Jeffrey Jump is the first corridor identified for BRT, partially because the jump didn't need so much help. We had an existing line, the number 14 Jeffrey Express, that's been running on this corridor for about a decade. Has high ridership, about 12,000 boardings per day. It also has a local bus there. So it has 4 distinct operating neighborhoods that it operates in. Basically south of 87th Street, on the top left there, you're in the bungalow belt, and the bus moves pretty quickly throughout the day. This next section between 67th and 83rd Street is a mixed-use, pre-war neighborhood, high density. There's a metro connection in there, and then the bus does crawl through that area. It's also the highest demand area for the route. Then you jump on Lakeshore Drive for about 6 miles, and you get very competitive travel times to any of our rail lines. Then you go downtown, which was not touched by this project, but it will be handled in the next project with the Central Loop. So what we did is we focused on that second area from the left to look at what we can do to improve that corridor. And the result was the jump. You can see here's a lot of the branding. Similar with Cleveland and other cities have done, branding was a big part of it. And you can see that the bus looks different from all of our other buses. It's with the special wrap. The improvements focus on the dedicated lanes between 67th and 83rd Street with the dedicated lanes there. You can see a picture on the right here. The great thing about this project is that there's parking in this bus lane outside of peak periods as it is. And so a lot of the concerns over neighborhood access and parking for businesses was not a major concern because we're able to keep the parking in the off-peak periods. And it's 7 to 9 a.m. Going towards downtown and 5 to 7 p.m. coming from downtown that this dedicated lane is enforced. There's higher capacity stations on this corridor with real-time information at each station. CTA is blessed to have a great IT backbone that we have bus real-time arrival on all of our buses and trains for every single route, every single bus stop. We were able to put that on the stations here. The first queue jump in the city of Chicago. These are the first dedicated lanes in the city of Chicago outside of downtown. It's the longest stretch of transit signal priority, which would give bus priority over traffic from 74th Street to 84th Street. In addition, the reduced stop spacing, stops are about every quarter mile to every half mile in most cases here. So previously it was every quarter mile in the old Jeffrey Express. It's been a big success for us. This is a rendering of what the bus lane took. I couldn't get this perspective from any building, so I just decided to show this one. These are your bus lanes here. In addition to that, you can see within the lanes, it's actually making it a more safer, operable street for autos as well. These had oversized lanes on them, about 15, 16 feet wide, and so it's actually been a big traffic calming tool for the city as well. And this last slide too, I want to show another thing we did really interesting with real-time information is we actually put real-time information on the bus. So if you're on the bus here, it's a live screen right there, and that live screen is giving you in real time what the travel time to your destinations are. So if you're going to City Hall, for instance, it'll say 9 minutes, and you know you're on time. Or if you're running late, you know right there, and you can email somebody and tell them you're running late. It's a great amenity for our customers. Customer satisfaction on this route is through the roof. Previously, we were pulling at about 65% customer satisfaction. Now we're in the low 80s, which is abnormal for any of our services. In addition, ridership is up to about 500 new boardings every day on an existing corridor. That's a very large feat. And in travel times between 67th and 83rd Street, we're up about 13 to 18% compared to previous Jeffrey Express. So it's been a great first success for us. This is the Central Loop project, the next project I'll go into. And we started off with this project